Now, he was there on board his ship in the Cuban area.
Which ship was it? Do you know?
I'd have to go through his papers to find that out. This is a very impromptu interview, so
No, it's all only first level. We're going to scrape it all out.
We'll get it together.
All right, so let's say 1961, and he was in the Navy for 4 years or 3 years. Do you remember?
He was in the Navy, and while he was in the Navy, when he first went into the Navy, he was trained at Great Lakes Naval Base, and it was in the middle of winter, and he ended up with double walking pneumonia and very, very sick initially.
A lot of coughing.
And that did some damage to his lungs later on in life. But from that, he did heal and went on to serve his country and go to Japan, and he was very proud to do that.
Now, Uncle Larry wound up getting very obese as long as I had known him. Was he obese as a child as well?
He was heavy as a child. As a little child, he was not. As a young teenager, he started to be heavier. Was on the wrestling team.
At Shenango Valley?
At Shenango Valley High School, where he did graduate.
Now, you were living there somewhere in that area. You weren't living in Binghamton then?
It's a suburb of Binghamton, but it still had a Binghamton address. We were living in Port Dickinson, New York.
Was that at 1095 Shenango Street?
That was at 1095 Shenango Street in Binghamton, New York. But it was the town of Dickinson in Port Dick, and the zip code was 13901. We lived on the second floor.
Wait a second, let me go back for a second. You left Laurelton in 1947 to 48?
I'm speaking incorrectly. It was not 1095 Shenango Street. It was 805 Shenango Street. At 1095 Shenango Street was much later. When my father and mother bought a building instead of renting another building for their mom and pop grocery store.
All right, let's go back to this. 800 what?
805 Shenango Street.
805 Shenango Street. Now that's where I saw the pictures of your grandfather, Oliver Shalom. He was a fruit dealer, some kind of...
This would be my mother's father.
Mother's father. So this is a Saul.
That would be a Saul.
Benjamin
that would be
Saul?
Benjamin Saul. And he was a fruit and vegetable peddler with a horse and a wagon.
You remember the horse and wagon?
I remember only the pictures of the horse and wagon.
So was that in America or was that in Europe?
Oh no, that was here. That was in Binghamton. It was. They had a house on Carroll Street, as in Carroll Street. It is no longer there where the house is. They took a number of houses to do an overpass to a highway.
Well, we want to mention, too, that the old Orthodox synagogue in Binghamton also used to be on Carroll Street.
Correct.
And that might not be a coincidence. They might have lived very close to the synagogue, and they were, in fact, contributors.
They were one of the originators. My grandfather, Ben, was one of the originators of the Brothers of Joseph Synagogue.
The trustee, right?
47... I'm thinking it was 47 Carroll Street. They were at 7 Carroll Street.
Give me a
the
year.
The building is still there, however, it is no longer a synagogue, obviously.
Okay, it's 40. What is this?
I believe it was 47.
So it's still there, but no longer a synagogue.
The building adjacent to the synagogue. The synagogue itself is no longer there.
Okay, that's good to know. How old was your grandfather, either of your grandfathers, at the time that you remember them? Because we know that Alex Shattuck, your grandfather, died in 1959. We assume May 19th of 1959.
Correct.
Was that here in Binghamton?
Grandfather Shattuck? No, he died in Hartford, Connecticut.
In Hartford, Connecticut. What was he doing there?
He was living, that was after my grandmother, my Bubby died, and he stayed with my parents.
Bubby meaning Fanny.
Correct.
Saul. Goldie Shattuck.
Right, Goldie Shattuck. So my Zadie, Alex, lived with my parents, my brother and I, and he would rotate to his different children for a few months, and then it got to a time when he needed more medical attention, so he lived in a Jewish residence home in Hartford, Connecticut, which was about an hour from where I lived in Connecticut at the time. Where
did you live in Connecticut at that time?
In a little town called Uncasville, Connecticut, which was just outside of Norwich, Connecticut, where...
Wait a second, you were 17, 18 at this time.
I was 17 and 18 at that time.
Now let me understand this. Let's get you back to Binghamton. 1947-48, you were in Laurelton. You left Laurelton, let's say 48. Where did you go then directly?
Directly, we moved to the second floor of my grandparents' house at 7 Carroll Street.
Okay, so you came back to Binghamton?
We came back to Binghamton, where my mother originated from.
Where you had gone to school too? Elementary school?
When I came here, yes.
When you came here in 48, you were 7 or 8 years old.
Christopher Columbus School.
Yeah.
And that was the same school that my mother had gone to. And I had one of her same teachers, a Mrs. Tierno.
And Grandma, that is Lee Shattuck, graduated from Binghamton High School.
Binghamton Central High School.
Which was then a Central High School, right?
Right.
That would have been in 1933.
Possibly.
Probably. She was born in which year?
Don't know.
You don't know the year your mother was born?
Nope.
Do you remember her birthday?
Oh, absolutely. June 26th.
June 26th.
And their anniversary date was June 12th.
Anniversary date was June 12th. Do you know which year they married in?
We'll find that out.
That's an important thing to know. So you have no idea how long your parents were married before you were born?
Yes, I believe they were married 5 years before I was born.
5 years.
And they were like 30-something both.
So your best guess, under those circumstances, that your parents were born in 1936. Yes?
Well, I don't want to guess. I'd rather give...
No, it could be 1 year, one way or the
other. Well, it could be 2 years, 3 years.
Okay.
You know, I'd rather find the information out and plug it in as we have accurate information.
So accurate would be for you June 12th is sure. We're not sure if it's 36, 37, 38, something like that.
The year is not clear. June 12th is their anniversary, correct? June 26th is my mother's birthday. April 15th is my father's birthday.
Okay, and not as it's listed on the internet that he died on December 25th.
On the internet, you're saying his birth date was December 25th,
no,
not his death date.
No, the death date is what's recorded. It's part of the death certificate because there's nothing about the birth. The death certificate mentions December 25th.
Okay, we can look that up again, but his death date is August 2nd.
And he was buried on August 4th, 1973. Where did he die? Do you remember?
In Binghamton, New York.
Binghamton, New York. And where is he buried?
He's buried in the Jewish Orthodox Cemetery on Conklin Road in Conklin, New York, which is 4 miles from here.
And Grandma?
My mother, your grandmother.
Lena Shattuck?
Lena Shattuck is also there. There is 3 generations buried all in the same cemetery. My grandfather and grandmother, Ben and Fanny Saul. His brother and his wife, Israel and Sarah Leah Saul, are buried there.
Wait a second, what's their relationship?
My grandfather's brother.
Saul's brother.
Correct.
So what's his name?
Israel.
Israel Saul.
Correct.
S-A-L-L?
Yes.
Okay. Israel Saul. Good. We can find that.
And
his
Sarah
wife?
Leah.
And this is, you always called her Tanta Saruleica.
No, I called her Tanta Surleika, as I pronounced from the hearing of it from being very little.
Okay, no, that's okay.
I remember coming to visit her, which she was 2 blocks from my grandmother and grandfather's house on the 2nd floor, and wonderful, wonderful hugs she gave, and good smells in the kitchen, and was a joyous, good time to sit and she would have a glass of latte, and I would sit there and we would talk.